The price of freedom. It all began on a cool winter morning when our country's president addressed the nation with an announcement that would change everything. With the country drowning in a massive deficit, he declared that anyone in the world could now purchase U.S. citizenship for $5 million, a bold move aimed at reducing the national debt by injecting fresh capital into the economy. I'm Marcus Nava, an investigative journalist, and I remember watching that live broadcast in disbelief. The president's measured tone was steady as he explained, "This is not just about welcoming new citizens. It's about securing our financial future by reducing our deficit. Every dollar brings us closer to economic stability." At first, the idea seemed unthinkable, selling the American dream to the highest bidder. Within days, the world's elite began to act. Billionaires, tech magnates, and influential investors from every corner of the globe rushed to claim their spot. They arranged for their children, trusted employees, and business partners to acquire this new citizenship. As a result, the country saw a rapid influx of newly naturalized citizens, each paying the hefty fee. Across America, changes became impossible to ignore. In vibrant urban centers and quiet suburban streets alike, luxury condos and grand estates began to appear almost overnight. Longtime residents started to notice that the neighborhoods they had known for generations were slowly transforming. Property values began to rise sharply, and there were growing concerns that soon locals might no longer be able to afford to buy a home. These fears ignited a wave of protests. Citizens who hadn't bought their homes yet, worried that their communities were being overtaken by foreign money, took to the streets. Mainstream media coverage amplified the panic, focusing on headlines about foreign investors snapping up entire blocks and driving prices to stratospheric levels. Angry signs and impassioned speeches echoed through city centers as people demanded that their government reconsider this radical policy. I traveled across the country, speaking with residents in cities and small towns. In one Midwestern community, a family who had lived in the same house for decades told me, "We're losing our home, our history. How can we afford to live here when everything's being bought up?" The protests grew louder, fueled by fear and uncertainty. People were convinced that America was about to become a nation for sale, a place where wealth would determine who truly belonged. Yet, despite the uproar, a curious detail remained hidden from the public eye. While the protests raged and media outlets reported chaos, there was something important that no one seemed to mention. Late one evening, I received an anonymous tip urging me to look beyond the headlines. Intrigued, I began to dig deeper into the government's implementation of the policy. What I discovered was surprising. Behind the scenes, long before the announcement, the government had prepared a set of protective measures designed to safeguard longtime American homeowners. Using advanced digital tracking and blockchain technology, a secure system had been set up to strictly limit the number of properties any newly naturalized citizen could purchase. In fact, new citizens were allowed to buy only one primary residence. The idea was to prevent a flood of foreign investment from driving up home prices and to preserve the fabric of established communities. However, the media had failed to report this crucial detail. Meanwhile, a small group of informed citizens, tech activists, policy experts, and concerned community leaders had quietly begun to spread the word. They organized town hall meetings and community forums where they explained in plain language how the new system worked. They showed real-time data and visual records from the blockchain system, proving that each new citizen was restricted to purchasing just one home. At one of these meetings in a town that had been hit hardest by the protests, the atmosphere shifted. Angry voices slowly turned to curiosity and then to relief as the facts came to light. People began to see that the government's plan wasn't a free-for-all that would see their neighborhoods overrun by wealthy outsiders. Instead, it was a carefully balanced strategy aimed at reducing the national deficit without sacrificing the opportunity for everyday Americans to own a home. The twist in this turbulent saga was both unexpected and hopeful. What many had feared was not happening. The influx of foreign money, while significant, was being managed with strict limits on property purchases. The very measures designed to protect longtime citizens were in place, ensuring that the policy to sell citizenship would not lead to a complete takeover of the real estate market. In the end, the protests began to lose their momentum as more and more citizens learned the full story. The initial fear of being priced out was replaced by a cautious optimism. The government's plan, originally criticized as a sell-off of the American dream, had a hidden layer of protection for those who had long called this country home. America was still facing a tough challenge, a massive deficit that needed addressing. But instead of a future defined solely by unchecked wealth and foreign ownership, a new chapter was opening. One where transparency, community engagement, and innovative technology worked hand in hand to protect the nation's heart and soul. As you listen to this story, remember that even in moments of crisis and uncertainty, truth can emerge from the shadows. Informed citizens and grassroots efforts have the power to bring clarity and balance to even the most controversial policies. The journey to secure our financial future is complex, but when the people come together, hope and reason can prevail. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of a time when fear and misinformation nearly overwhelmed us, but where, in the end, the strength of community and truth won the day.